All right, Jaron, my twin, here's your video. Okay, so first of all, I'm not like an expert, I would say, in this subject matter, but there are things that I think about. So the question for those of you who don't remember that Jaron posted was, what exercises do I think have the most carryover, and what are my PRs in those exercises? Now, there's a ton of different exercises that I think have great carryover to the table. As far as my PRs in those, a lot of these I haven't even touched, like with different handles and things like that. Like for example, I think a multi-spinner has great carryover to the table there. I've hardly touched a multi-spinner. The things that I have done, that I have maxed down, that I think still have great carryover, are going to be things that are run of the mill, really. What I primarily think about when I think about great carryover to the table is going to be is how much of the chain is this exercise including. So for example, just to make it analogous to something, bench press, you want to get better at bench pressing. The best thing to do is going to be bench press, so you can train that neuromuscular efficiency for that specific movement. So in the same way, for arm wrestling, obviously the table itself is going to be the best thing first. Then moving from that, exercises that are involving a primary function, primary force that you apply on the table while including as much of the chain as possible. So Devin Larry style lifts, whether it be from the floor or from the table height with a pulley, with a cable machine, anything like that, dealing with pronation, rising, back pressure, supination, pressing, right? I think it's going to have fantastic carryover to the table. So, I mean, as far as cupping handles, I say it ad nauseum. You guys know I love the fucking wrist wrench. So in terms of PRs, though, the last time I did PRs on a few things, so with the Devin Lara style pronation lift off the floor, my max ever was 130 pounds, and more of an open top roll style on the outside of my knee type of deal. Recently, in a closer angle, because that is something I've been wanting to focus more on. Devin Lara style pronation lift, I have done 128 pounds. So there's that. The most I ever did on a riser lift, I believe, was 80 pounds on riser, and I am criminally undertrained on the riser lift. I don't do it that often. I think honestly you get a lot from that pronation lift into a riser as well, just because of the nature of where the strap is on your hand. I still think you're hitting a lot of riser doing a pronation lift. So I don't really dedicate a shit ton of time to a specific riser lift. Not to say that you shouldn't. I still think it is wise to do such a thing. Just me personally, I just don't do it that much. And then obviously back pressure lifts, I think are going to have good carryover as well. Just tying the strap over top of your hand here and basically doing a hammer curl with the strap, I think is going to have great carryover. And supination with the strap, or any other miscellaneous handle that's going to be training a primary function, and if you can include elbow flexion in there while you're doing it and include more angles and pressures and whatever lift that you're doing, I think it's going to have even more carryover, right? So, and then after that, if you want to finish off with more isolated type movements, I think that's okay. And obviously, you guys know I'm always talking about vertical pulls. I think from what I've seen in the game, guys who tend to be very strong at vertical pulling movements are very strong on the table. Because when you can access that power, like once you get your hand strength there where it needs to be with your pronation and your cupping, and you have access to your back muscles, right? I think those exercises are going to have some of the most carryover. So work your way up to be able to do things like pull-ups or very heavy vertical pull-downs. I think those are going to be fantastic just because the nature of how you're pulling on a table, there's a lot of upper back shit going on there. And depending on the angle that you're pulling at, you can also engage your lats and more of your mid to lower back muscles. Obviously, lower back is going to be kind of like whatever, but you get the gist of what I'm saying there. So on a back pressure lift, I think the most I've ever done on a single, just to get back to that point, has been 105 pounds on the right. This is all right arm, by the way. all right arm. You know, I don't care about left. So 105 pounds for a single on back pressure. I don't really max out supination or anything like that. I have done my weight stack before, which is 75 pounds just supinating. I don't know what I can do now. I really don't know. And those are the primary exercises that I've maxed out on. Pull-ups, depending on if I fluctuate between 5 and 10 pounds. There are days where I can easily do 15 underhand chin-ups, which is the main thing that I like to do. I feel like that carries over a lot to hooking. So a lot of what I do on pull-ups is going to be underhand. I just feels more comfortable too, just wrist positions and things like that, which is kind of tangential. But yeah, I do love underhanded chin-ups there. But yeah, besides that, oh yeah, and then on the cupping, this right here, I've given approximations as to what I think I have maxed out on. I believe the cupping with the resistance bands at peak force is about 115 pounds that I'm putting when I'm dragging, doing my low cup like this. Approximate. I don't know. I don't have a crane scale. That's what I would guess it's about. Yeah, I mean, besides that there, man, that's basically more or less what I've maxed out on. But yeah, focus on exercises that are including the hand, including elbow flexion, if you can, as much as possible, and make those your primary focuses. Don't focus a shit ton on isolated movements. You know, I see a lot of guys that are putting so much effort into isolated exercises, and I grip up with a lot of these dudes from time to time, and they're posting these crazy ass videos. And let me tell you, this is not sunshine and rainbows. I don't give a fuck if you're sitting there and you have a pronator machine that just makes you do this all day, and then I grip up with you and I feel nothing of that pronation because you have not accompanied your elbow flexor to be able to engage that properly, right? This is why I get so annoyed at people who hyperfixate on accessory and isolated movements. Like if people who are cupping a shit ton of weights with an apparatus that is supporting their forearm, that to me, and then I grip up with you and I pronate straight through your cup because you didn't engage the chain properly. Your training program has been dog shit, like you're just hyperfixated. Anyways, let me not get too much on a downhill right there. Just want to throw that in there. Fixate on movements that include the chain, right? Again, think any powerlifting movement, you want to get stronger in that powerlifting movement, you're incorporating as close to that original movement as possible. Bench press, squats, that kind of stuff. So get as close as you can to that original movement in the gym. I think it's a pretty safe philosophy, and don't inundate yourself with too much variety. Be able to track progression meaningfully in these lifts. So that's basically what I got. I know I kind of went on tangents here and there, but that's what I got. Hope you appreciate the video, Jared. Let me know if there's any more questions. Thank you, man.